Well, my work bounces off nature. My inspiration is always nature. I like the word exotica to kind of sum up the whole thing. My early years were spent in New England and Connecticut and New Hampshire, and I was born in Maine, conceived in Boston. So when we moved to Hawaii, the world opened for me and my eyes exploded at thrilling experiences like a palm frond and plumeria and pikaki flowers and mamo birds that have been used to make the king's cloaks that I saw at the Bishop Museum in Hawaii. And I got to grow orchids, and I've just been enthralled with nature from the tropics my whole life, and I've collected and lived with as many as 200 birds in my studio over the years. Moved a great deal and gathered experiences from all of the places. I was an exchange student in Nicaragua, where I first owned a toucan. I had 16 of them at one point in New York. So I've been through many phases of bird keeping and experiencing most of what you see here, either in nature or my own aviary. I had Asian woodpeckers. This is a cardinal, which is all over Louisiana where I went to school, and I have 3 antebellum homes there. And I have just somehow used everything I've seen in my travels from India to South America to Montreal to Hawaii, all over the world. And my painting has become the way of storing these memories and working with them. And now that I'm kind of more specific in my subject matters, I experiment with media now, more medium rather. I'm doing glass, I'm doing diamond dust, I use a lot of metallic powders. After my last trip to India, I came into my studio and realized that I'd been looking at everything through a wire mesh of my 40-foot bird cage and had never incorporated it into my work. So I started carving the back of the brush and carving into the wet paint and making what I call crosshatch marks. Not all of the paintings have them, but a lot of them do, say 80%. This show in particular goes from about the 80s to the present time. There's some early things I did of the Liz Christie Gardens, which are across the street from my studio and home of 44 years on Houston and Bowery, that I had to do for some project. I was hired under the Cultural Council Foundation Artists Project in the late 70s, and I did murals for the World Trade Center and schools and saints for churches, and it's like the WPA under the Carter administration. It may have had something to do with that. I honestly can't remember, but Matt wanted more paintings for this show, so he came to the Searles Castle that I've recently purchased and dug these things out from where we just planted them, and I'm glad he did, because it gives a much broader range to the scope of time of the show. I've always loved painting in oil. A formative thing in my life was going to the Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture between my junior and senior year at Tulane in New Orleans. And I studied with a lot of great figurative people there, teachers, everyone from Alex Katz was there to Louise Nevelson as visitors. And then, anyway, it was a very formative period, and they all said, don't go to graduate school, just move to New York, which I did in 1973, and I've been there ever since. I also painted saints in the late 70s and again incorporated all kinds of animals into the backgrounds. I did a piece of San Martin de Porres. I had chosen Ecuador and went to Peru and visited the tomb of San Martin de Porres and Rose of Lima and came back with paintings I'd done, and then all these shows on the theme of saints came about in New York, and I was on the cover of the Arts and Leisure section of the Times on Easter Sunday with a painting of San Martin. And I put in, his symbols are a cat, a dog, a broom, and a mouse. And I put in a peacock and a tiger. And I always put in rabbits for some reason, which have become one of my main subject matters in recent years. So everything that I do now is kind of an offshoot of that period. But I've been sort of uncategorizable as a painter most of my life. I've been called a everything from a neo-expressionist to a pop artist. I like non-category. Anyway, I just have used oil paint religiously. I also have done paperworks my whole life. And Henry Geltzoller loved my watercolors, and he asked for my work in the hospital before he died. So he had those paintings in front of him. He wrote the first essay for the first catalog or thing on my work that was done. I have a new book out called The Bigger Picture that Hans Ulrich Obrecht wrote an interview with me in, which was quite an exciting thing for me. He's curator at the Serpentine in London. I am thrilled to be having this show here because of my new association in this area with the Searles Castle, formerly known as Kellogg Terrace. I have a passion for collecting old houses of stature that and bringing them back. I've done this 8 times now, and it becomes part of my art. It's another dimension. I call it time travel. I'm the first single inhabitant of Searles Castle since 1880. I have turned it into a private home again, and it's in great condition. I mean, I'm doing amazing restorations, but collecting furniture is my passion, and particularly 19th century painting in furniture and bringing it into this century. These are some fabrics that I've done.
What do you think of the show? Like, how would you describe this particular
Oh, I'm very excited about it. I think it's a wonderful installation of everything that I'm doing. This is a wonderful sampling of everything I've done and all my different subject matters, and I think the very intimate and well-planned installation. I'm very excited about it. And I love working with glass. I think it's a great medium, and it brings a whole new dimension to color and transparency and opaqueness and all kinds of, I don't know, we call it ombre painting and painting, iridescence. I mean, there's just a myriad of new possibilities. I've seen many artists work in glass to some degree over the years, and this seems to be an ongoing thing with me.
So what is it about rabbits, bunnies?
I'm the sign of the rabbit, but they just happened. Nothing in my work is calculated or planned. It just emerges. I was really more known for my birds forever. The rabbits, well, there's this wonderful book called The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scoble Shinn, who is married to the painter Everett Shinn. And it talks how some things just take off in your life that are the simplest thing you do. You know, I never thought, I was getting excited about 19th century frames, and there's a portrait frame size that was so available when I started collecting them. We have flea markets in New York, and so much cheaper than contemporary framing. And I just had 10 by 8 pieces of wood cut and started doing them as kind of warm-ups, and rabbits emerged, birds emerged, but the rabbits really took off, and I put them on walls in groups just to dry. And a photograph was taken, it became a cover of a book, and somehow people got excited about it. I can't explain why. It wasn't something that I was aiming for in any way, shape, or form. I also do very large paintings of rabbits, and it just is a gesture that comes out of me all the time, you know. And they're all different. It's like part of my whole thing is repetition is a good thing, that you recite rosaries and malas, and I do a lot of reciting of mantras and prayers, and this is a form of it. It's just over and over. It's like snowflakes. Everyone is different, and it's just about how the divine can be one, you know, take a form like leaves of trees. I mean, one leaf does not speak of what a tree is, or blades of grass, and how it all adds up to this thing. So somehow my painting has taken the form of over and over again repeated subject matters, but then I can focus on the gesture and the paint and how I want to, you know, incorporate other materials, and just surprises happen. It's really very, very random, and it seems to come from within. But whether people like it or not, who knows? You know? I always thought my best work was, you know, it's usually stuff that people don't like, so I thought it was my strongest. Who knows? Anyway, I paint every day, and that's what I do, and I love it, and that's what keeps me sort of sane in this crazy world we live in.